Hello students, today we will going to discuss about some of the basic concepts in communication. So we will see one by one. So when we are telling about communication, first we should know from where this word has come. The communication, that word has come from a Latin word communis, which means a common. So when we are telling about a communication, it is nothing but a commonness in our interaction between the two people is called as a communication. So basically, we will try to understand what is communication. When we are telling about a communication, we need at least two to have an interpersonal communication. So one is called as a source and another one is a receiver. So here the source will going to give his idea, attitude, knowledge, experience and whatever he felt to the receiver, and taking that the receiver will going to give a feedback or response to the source. So the communication is a process in which a source or a communicator will going to exchange his ideas, experience, knowledge, attitude, or whatever he has got to a receiver or the end user. And after receiving those ideas, end user will going to give a feedback about the information which he has or she has received from the source. The main important thing in a communication process is both must come to a common understanding during the communication process. So now we will see the different definitions given by the different authors to a communication. The standard definition which were taken for the communication is according to the Legans. According to Legans, he defines that the communication is a process by which two or more people exchange ideas, facts, feelings, and or anything in a way that each should gain a common understanding of the message which is intended or use of the message. That means the communication will be very efficient or complete only when both the source and receiver must have a common understanding of the message. In a simple definition, if we take with respect to a communication, we can say that the communication is a process by which the message is transferred from a source to a receiver. According to the Roser and Shoemaker, they have given the simple definition of a communication to the process in which the message is sent from a source and received by a receiver or the end users. And according to Van Den Ban and Hawkins, the communication is a process of sending and receiving the message through a channel which establishes the common meaning of source and the receiver. See, whenever we are taking a definition of a communication, after exchange of information, the common understanding of the information by both the source and receiver is very essential to say that the communication is effective. So the communication, what we can say is exchange of ideas to have a common understanding about an idea which has been exchanged between a source and the receiver. Now we will see what are the important nature of a communication. So when we are telling a communication, it is a process. Process means it is a continuous. We are going to communicate in each and every stage of our life, and it is a continuous process. And the communication takes place with the participants. That means we will going to communicate with the people who are with us or among us. And communication takes place at many levels. Many levels means we can have an individual communication. That means I can communicate with only one person, or maybe there is a chance that the communication may take place between one to a many, or many with many, like that. So it may take place at a many levels. So when we are telling about a communication process, it comprises of number of parts, are the different important components are the criterias which are involved in a communication are: one is the expression, interpretation, and the response. So when we are telling about an expression, it is nothing but a source is giving an information to a receiver. Interpretation means I am going to convince the message in a way which could be accepted by the receiver. Response means the response which is given by a receiver after receiving the message from a source, that is nothing but a response. Whenever we are telling about a communication, that involves three important criteria, that is expression, interpretation, and the response. And in the communication process, it employs many means. Means the bridge or the source through which I am communicating. It may be in a form of a letter, it may be orally, it may be through a video, it may be through a photographs, like that. And the communication involves interdependence. It is very essential. I cannot communicate for myself. When I am communicating, that has to be taken by the receiver. So the dependency of the receiver on communicator and the communicator on the receiver will be there. If both are depending or both are complementing with each other, then the communication will be very effective. And the fidelity varies from one communication situation to another. You know that the fidelity is not nothing but effective performance of elements of communication. So here, based on the situation in which we are communicating, the effectiveness and the efficiency of the communication will going to change. Now we will see what are the objectives of communication. The important objective of communication is, the first thing is making the people aware of their condition and the situation. That means when you are coming to a new area or a new place, you will going to inquire about that place just to have an awareness and what is existing in that area, what are the conditions and the situations. So we are communicating mainly to know about the situation or to have a first-hand information about a new place or a new area. And the next objective is the organizing them as need-based group that would prepare long-term plans collectively. That means when we are working together, especially in a group approach or maybe in a political party, the people are communicating with each other to make them as an effective group. Good example is youth organization, farmers club, self-help groups. All these things are made together based on these communication. We are communicating and knowing each other, and based on the requirement of each other, we are organizing them into a group for a long run objectives or to achieve a long run goals. And the next is to developing their own capabilities and leadership skills and guiding them to manage their own affairs. That is nothing but in a communication process, if you are a good communicator, you can become a good leader and you can lead a people without any conflict or without any problem. So this will help us to have a develop a leadership skills, and we can guide the others and we can manage the situation in which we are there. And the communication is very essential to inform them of different programs and schemes from which they can derive benefits. With respect to a farmers, in a communication process, the communication is very essential just to inform a farmer or to know about what are all the facilities available for the farmers that could be used for their benefit or the well-being. Now we will see some of the important functions of communication. The first one is the informative function, the second one is influencive, third one is instructive, and fourth one is integrative function. Now we will see one by one. Informative function, as the name itself indicates, we are communicating to inform the other about a particular situation, particular area, or particular program, or about a particular event, just to give an information, that is about creating an awareness about a particular event we are communicating, that is the informative function. The command or instructive function. The command or instructive function, instruction when it comes is from the higher authorities. This is mainly in case of the hierarchical arrangement, where the superior in an organization, maybe in a family or maybe in a society, will going to initiate the communication process and instruct their subordinate that what they have to do to achieve the goal and when they have to do and with whom they have to do will be done in a commanding or instructive function. In an influencive or persuasive function, as the name itself indicates, we are influence them to particular information. Being an extension worker, when we are communicating with the farmer, it is the main purpose is to influence or persuade the farmer about a new technology. I have to communicate in such a way that I have to persuade the farmer or influence the farmer to make them adopt or make utilization of the important aspects of the technology that is very much essential for their higher benefit or to get their agriculture to move in a positive direction. Integrative function, it is a continuously offsetting any disintegration. That means keeping everybody intact. In an organizational, we have to keep everybody happy and we have to make everybody satisfied about their work or a job such that we can move together to achieve the goal of an organization. So integrative function is to keep them together intact such that we can run in a positive direction and we can achieve the goal of an organization. So when we come about the principles of communication, the first principle is to have a clarity, attention, informative, adequacy, consistency, timeliness, and feedback. When we see one by one the principles of communication, the principle of attention, that means we must, being a communicator, we must create a attention among the audience. That could be achieved when you speak very loud and give stress to the important words that could be help the audience to be attentive in a communication process. Next is to the principle of feedback. Usually, whenever we see in a communication process, we always used to give a information to the audience. We never take a feedback from the audience whether they got the message as I intended, whether they have any doubt regarding that message, whether they want any clarification about that, we will not do it. So this is also very essential. Whenever you are communicating, you must follow the feedback to know that to what extent the source could, a receiver could able to understand the message which has been given by the source. And the third principle is of clarity. Whenever you are presenting an information to the audience, you must be very clear about the idea which you are presenting. Being a communicator, I must be clear about the information which I am transferring to the receiver. So that idea or the clarity should be there. I must have a proper understanding of the message when I am delivering it to a receiver. Next is the principle of consistency. Consistency with respect to the objective of communication. See, if the objective of communication is just to inform the audience about a new concept, then you have to talk according to that. If it is for creating a awareness, if it is for persuading a farmer, then my communication should be modified according to the objective. That means whenever I am communicating to the audience, my communication should be consistent with the objective of a communication process. And the next one is principle of timeliness. Timeliness means whenever I am communicating the information, it should be in time. That means when I am telling about the new variety about, of a particular crop, that should be given before sowing. If I'm going at the time of harvesting and telling them this is the new variety available in a paddy, then you cannot get a response from the farmer because they are at the verge of harvesting. So whenever you are communicating, communicate the information in time. And there are different types of communication. The first one is the verbal communication, which you are knowing in a day-to-day life. On an average, the person spends about 70% of his time in verbal communication. That includes listening, speaking, reading, and writing. That means we are presenting the information in this manner, in a verbal manner, where we are talking with our friends. Sometimes we may be busy in writing, sometimes we may be busy in reading, or we may listen to our friends. And the second type of communication is non-verbal communication. This is associated with the verbal communication. That includes the gestures, facial expression, or your eye movement, voice variations, and paralinguistics. These things will going to influence on communication, which makes communication more effective when we use along with the verbal form. And the next third one is intrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication is we are communicating within ourselves, and it is a continuous process. Whenever we are sitting, you can see in this picture a girl is thinking. She is communicating within herself. We can say a good example is daydreaming. You may be in a class, you may be in a meeting, you may be in somewhere, but you will be communicating within yourself and you are dreaming and you are interacting within yourself. That is nothing but a intrapersonal communication. And the fourth one is the small group communication. That means we may be communicating with 2 to or maybe 10 people. The best size of a group when we are telling about a small group communication is it is from 5 to 10 people. It may be a formal discussion or it may be an informal discussion. If it is a formal discussion, we used to tell it as a panel discussion where there is an arrangement. One has to talk only this much, this time has to be taken. Whereas in an informal discussion, it is a discussion among your friends or a peer group with the family members. We are communicating in a tea or maybe with a lunch or something like that. But in a communication process, small group communication, where the source may become a receiver, receiver may become a source. You can see in this picture that everybody is communicating among themselves. He may be communicating with this person, maybe with this person, maybe with, means interaction among the people will be there. Here the source may act as a receiver, receiver may act as a source, but interacting among themselves with a small group of people. And the next one is public speaking. The public speaking is the one in which one person will going to address to a large number of people or a huge number of audience. Here you can see the source is a one, audience is a big number. The public speaking is mostly the one way where the speaker will going to give a message to the audience. Here we cannot say it as a two-way communication. In very rare case, few may ask interaction and only 2 to 3 questions will be answered by the speaker in a huge gathering. Here, the message will be conveyed by the speaker to the receiver or a huge audience. There may not be a response, but there may be a chance of the few response in terms of slogans or maybe a clap, maybe chanting, maybe whistling and all those things. You can see as a means of response which you could see in a public speaking. And next is the dyadic communication. Dyadic communication means here only two individuals are involved. Here the communication will take place between it two, where you can see in this picture when we are talking in a phone. It is not a conference call, only with the phone you can talk with only one person in the opposite direction. In this case, it varies from formal to informal communication. It may take place when we are telling about a formal communication, it may take place between a lawyer and a client or a doctor and a patient. Whereas maybe your boss with you. Whereas in case of informal situation, it may take place between a parent and a child or mother and a daughter, father and a daughter, or maybe among a sisters, among a brother and a sister. That is what you are communicating among yourself. That is only involves the two people in a communication process. In this communication, there is also called as a serial or sequential communication. Why it is called as a serial and sequential means we are go on talking. When you are having a best friend, two best friends are there, every day they will talk. Each and every matter they will discuss and communicate with each other. So it is a serial. Serial, as you know that serials are coming in a TV, every day one episode will be there. So like this, in a dyadic communication, it is a serial process. Continuously you will talk. How a parent will talk with their children. Every day they will talk. It is a continuous process. This is what is called as a dyadic communication. So this is about some of the important basic concepts related to communication with respect to their functions, principles, types, and the definition of communication. Thank you so much.